All right, here we go. So we're going to talk through the quiz real fast. If I go to lose you somewhere, ask me to slow down, okay? My goal is not to lose you, but my goal is also not to bore you to death because you know how to do this. So on this first one, the graphing stuff, we're kind of going to do a similar thing on the test. We're not going to make you graph every single thing. We're going to kind of check how your graphing is and then move on. So your graph between 2 and 5, those are open dots, shading in the middle. Number 2, closed dot for -4, open dot for 2, right? This is what makes the difference, open and closed, okay? This is closed, this is open, right? If it has the bar underneath, it's included. Number 3 got done wrong a lot. Absolute value, what always has to happen? 2 inequalities. So these are your 2 inequalities. You write the original, how it is. You flip the symbol, change the sign. So it should be between -3 and 3. That's an and problem. Remember when it's less than, that's an and, so you're shading in between. Number 4, I was happy to see how many of you remembered to flip your symbol. Good job. If you got it wrong, you probably told me x is less than -7. It's not, it's greater than. Remember when you divide by a negative, you got to flip it over. Some of you wrote 2 inequalities for me. You only need to write 2 inequalities if there are already 2 for you, or it's absolute value, okay? Don't create new ones that don't exist. Number 5, when it is written like this, you have to do whatever you do to every part of the problem. Some of you are only doing it to the right side, or you're trying to take this and move it over to the right side. That's not what we want to do, okay? What you want to do is take away 1 everywhere, right? Because whatever you need to do here, you got to do on the left and the right. Essentially, we have 3 inequality portions here. So take away 1. Some of you just did the math wrong and told me this is -6, but it's -7 minus 1. That's a -8. Plug it into your calculator to check it, right? That should be like one of those, we know it, but people just rush. And then your last step, so now we're here. Your last step then is divide by 2, and divide by 2, and divide by 2. So you get -4 is less than x, which is less than 5. Okay. Number 6, there are 2 inequalities there. This is a compound inequality. I think some of you saw this and went, oh, I can solve this one or I can solve that one. It's an or problem, not a pick and choose which one you want to solve. So this means when we solve this, distributing, some of you forgot to make this a 2 and you left it as a 1, and then that messes everything up. So distribute. And then solve from there. Take away the 5t, you're left with t. Take away the 2, you're left with -6. Your symbol stays the same, so t is less than -6. Again, some of you would have this written down, and then you told me the answer was 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Number 7, I distributed. Some of you divided by 9, that's fine too. I distributed. When you take away the 9x, it goes away here, and it goes away here. That's 0. So I'm left with this, okay? But that's not my answer. We're looking for what is the solution to the problem. So yes, you get this, but your answer is either identity or all real numbers. I would take either one of those because this is always true, right? -18 is always less than 27. So I can plug any real number into that problem and get the right answer, okay? Translate. I was impressed with how many of you got this pointing in the right direction. 3 plus x, that's the sum, right? And then is at most. So you have to think this is at most 42, meaning it has to be 42 or less, right? So less than or equal to 42. This one, your setup for plumber A should be 75 plus 40 per hour. Plumber B is just $50 per hour. Now, here's what the question says. How many hours must a plumbing job last for plumber A to cost less than plumber B? So set it up as an inequality, right? It's not equal to, it's less than the other. So when you do that, you get this. Now, some of you said 7.5 hours, which is not true. if it took 7.5 hours, it's going to cost the same amount. That's if they're equal, right? So you have to say it would take more than 7.5 hours. If you told me it will take 8 hours, that's fine. But just know it could be 8 or more hours, okay? Questions on any of that page? Okay, page 2. Solving absolute value. Some of you forgot that absolute value requires 2 equations. Make sure if you see these bars, there will be 2 equations or inequalities, okay? So you isolate first. This one's already isolated. Plug that in. Here's your 2 equations that you write. And then you just solve for y. So 16 and negative 11 is what you get there. Number 11, once you isolate, once you add 2, you get this inequality. What's wrong with that? It's negative. Absolute value cannot equal a negative. So you didn't need to go any further than this. You can't go any further than this. And the answer is just no solution. Okay. Number 12. So again, 2 equations. One is the equation you start with without the bars. The other, you have to make both parts the opposite of what they were on the right side. So it was 3x plus 4. Now it's negative 3x minus 4. And then we solve. When we solve, we get this answer and this answer. Okay? You need to check for extraneous there because when you plug this one in, it works out. 7 equals 7. When you plug this one in, this is a negative, was it 1.4? Was it 1.8? I don't know if I plugged the wrong thing in, but anyway, it's a negative, right? This is a positive because we're taking the absolute value, so that's what makes it extraneous. So you needed to say this is extraneous, this is the right answer. 13, more absolute value, so that means 2 inequalities again. So you get this one and you get this one, right? Flip the symbol, make it negative. When you solve those, you may either write it like this, or if you want to make it one big answer, it's an and problem, so you can write it like that, okay? 14, again, isolate first. Some of you divided by 2 or tried to distribute that 2. You cannot distribute outside, you can't do that, okay? With absolute value, it doesn't work that way. Instead, what you're gonna do is you're gonna get rid of the 1 first. So that's 10. So now we're here. Okay, once you're there, now you're gonna divide by 2. Don't distribute, divide by 2, and now you're here. And then from there, now that we've isolated the absolute value, now you can write your 2 inequalities. So that was this one and this one. Remember, flip the symbol, change the sign. You get x is greater than or equal to 2 or x is less than or equal to negative 8. And then the bonus. This one worked out. You could have either given me this and this, or if you made it an improper, it would be that and that. That one got fancy. I'm not gonna work that one out for you because it's a bonus. Any questions on the quiz? Okay. Then what we're gonna do, okay? Did you all find this? Review B.
Yes.
Yes? Okay. I just literally, if you want to know what I did, I took your test and I laid it in front of me and I went through a bunch of like types of problems and I was like, yep, we'll do one like that. We'll do one like that. We'll do one like, so this, what you're seeing in front of you is very much the format of your test, which means if you understand the concepts here, not the exact problems that we're doing, but the concepts behind them, you'll be in very good shape, okay? But we're just gonna talk through it together. Like I said, this is not homework. I just want you to experience some of the problems. Your homework, I will give you kind of the second half of class to work on the Review B assignment. But I wanna talk through these first. So here we go. So the first thing that you're gonna have to do, one of the things, I don't know that they're in this order, but one of the things that you're gonna have to do on this test is work through the properties that we've talked about. So I gave you a few. This is not all of them. So in my recommendation to you, I would say, go back to your notes for 1, 2, and look through every one of those properties, right? They're in your notes. Look through every one of them. Make sure you know what they all are. Some are of addition, some are of multiplication. Know them all, okay? Can anyone tell me what number 1 is? X plus 0 equals X? Identity, yes. That is identity of addition, okay? Identity means what it started as is what it ended as, right? It did not change its identity, we'll say. So add 0. What is identity with multiplication? Times 1. Do you see that?
Yes.
Right here. This is identity of multiplication. What is number 2? X plus 37 plus a negative 37 equals X plus 37 plus a negative 37. That's associative. Remember, if parentheses move to different numbers or variables, that's associative. If the numbers and variables inside of the parentheses just switch places, what is that? Commutative. So this is associative of addition. What's number 4? Inverse of addition. Major, I was just thinking about you. You don't have any of these notes. Who do you know in here that could share? Will you airdrop him your notes or share them however you want to share them? Then you'll at least have those to look back on. That would be great. Okay, 5, 6, and 7 is the sets of numbers. Let's just quickly talk through that before we start answering. So the big like umbrella thing of numbers that we're talking about are real numbers, right? Real branched off to what and what? Irrational and rational, right. So you have irrational numbers and you have rational numbers. Remind me what a rational number is. You can write it as a fraction, right? Or a repeating decimal. Or terminating. What? Yes. Sorry, I thought you were telling me something wasn't working. So a repeating decimal or a terminating decimal, like 2.75 or 2.6 repeating, right? Those are rational. What are irrational?
Square root of 2.
Square root of 2 is irrational. Pi is irrational. 1.010010001, something that's not repeating. Okay, there's a pattern there, but it's not a repeating decimal, right? So that's irrational. Then rational under the rational realm, there were several things, right? Nothing came under irrational. What were the rational sets of numbers that we talked about? There were 3, right? There were 3, yes. Natural is 1. What's a natural number? Those are the counting numbers. 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. What was the next one? Whole. Remember, whole numbers are the natural numbers, but with a 0, right? Whole kind of has a 0 in it. And then the last one? Integers. What are integers? Positive and negative whole numbers, right? So -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, so on and so forth. Whoops. And that keeps going in both directions. Okay, so knowing all that, quick recap on that. What set of numbers is number 5?
Rational.
Not rational. Irrational, right. And notice this says what set or sets of numbers. So we want every set of number that this could fall into, okay? Not including real, because everything will be real. How about number 6, 2.375? Those are rational, because you may write it as a decimal that terminates. Number 7, -11 is?
Integer.
It's an integer. It's also rational, right? It's an integer and it's rational. Okay, it is not a natural number because it's negative. It's not a whole number because it's negative, okay? So it's an integer and it's rational. Questions on that? What would 600 be? Natural, whole, integer, rational, right? All of them but irrational. Okay? Questions on that? Yeah.
On the test, we have to write all of them that apply.
I think on the test I asked you to name all that apply. Yeah. I didn't give them to you in like word problems like we did before. Like, what would the number of pets be? That would be a whole number, right? You could have 0 pets or 1 or 2. I asked what set or sets of numbers they would fall into. Yeah, so you'll give me multiple if there are multiple. Okay, combining like terms. So in order to combine like terms, what has to be true? Same variable? Can I combine all 3 of these?
No.
Mm-mm. Your exponents have to be the same also with your variables, right? So we can do these 2 together. So it's going to be 5x. This is a negative 3x squared plus 16x squared. What is that?
13.
A positive 13x squared. Now here's the deal. Typically we go in descending order with our exponents. So the best answer you could give me right now is 13x squared plus 5x. We'll stress that more as we get into things. So I don't typically mark off on this one if you don't do that, but try to get in the habit of always writing your bigger exponents first and then descending order from there, okay? All right, number 9. What should you do here? Distribute. Yeah, we'll start by distributing. So this is going to be a negative 2j squared. What comes after that? Plus, right? Minus a negative is plus a positive, so plus 2k. Then distribute this. Remember, this is a negative 6 that you're distributing, essentially. So minus 6j squared minus 18k. P.S. I don't have an answer key in front of me for this right now. I'm just like doing it along with you. So if you see me make a stupid mistake, silly mistake, sorry, just tell me because I'm just working through it with you. I can very easily make a mistake here. What do you get first here? Yeah, a negative 2j squared minus 6j squared is a negative 8j squared. Then what? Minus 16k. So you have a 2k and a negative 18k. Combine those. You cannot combine these because they have different variables, right? All right. Oh, I went the wrong way. Number 10. So these ones you're evaluating, which means you're plugging numbers in for variables. I would do that right off the bat. Don't try to simplify things first. Just plug things in. Is that just a stretch, Jonah? Are you?
Yeah.
Okay. So y is 12. Okay, that's going to go, right here. So 12 times 3 minus your x value plus your x value squared. Okay. If you need to write PEMDAS down on your test so that you make sure you go in PEMDAS order, go for it. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. Okay. What do you do first here? Okay, so you could distribute, but you're making more work for yourself if you distribute. What would be a better route? Do what's in the parentheses. Follow PEMDAS, right? PEMDAS says do the parentheses first. So 12 times 1. You can also do the exponents right at the same time because they don't affect each other. So you get 12 plus 4. So you should get 16 on that. Okay. And again, maybe you want to write this down. Just keep in mind that these two happen together. Multiply and divide happen together, add and subtract happen together, just left to right. You don't have to multiply before you divide. You have to work left to right with multiplication and division or addition and subtraction. All right, number 11. Now A has a negative, so pay attention to those negatives. You're doing negative 2 times negative 3 plus 5 times 2 plus 6 times negative 3 minus 2 times 2. What do you do first? Multiply. You're going to multiply everything. So this is going to be a positive 6, a positive 10, a negative 18, and a negative 4. Now what do? You have addition and subtraction. What do you got to do?
Solve from left to right.
Left to right, okay? Don't worry about did the addition come first or the subtraction come first. If you do the addition first and the addition is somewhere else in the problem, you're going to get the wrong answer, okay? Left to right, yeah.
Shouldn't there be a negative 3 at the end for the last plus A?
Oh, sure should. Thank you. I missed it. See, that's why I have you guys here. Catch all my mistakes. So there should be a minus 3 at the end there. Here's your setup. Work left to right. So 16, right? 16 minus 18 is going to get you a what?
Negative 2.
Negative 2 minus 4 is going to get you
Negative 6.
-6. And then negative 6 minus 3 is a negative 9. Okay? All right. Number 12. The sum of 3 consecutive odd integers is 159. What's integer number 1?
X.
X. What's integer number 2?
That's 2.
X plus 2, because they said odd integers, right? X plus 2. So if this is the number 15, the next odd is 2 more than that at 17. What's the third one? X plus 4. So the sum of those 3 numbers, so X plus 2 plus X plus 4 should equal 159. And then we just do the math. 3X plus 2 plus 4, so plus 6 equals 159, not 156. Take away the 6. So 153 equals 3X. Divide by 3. So X is 51. Okay, are you done? No, what's your answer?
3 consecutive.
The 3 consecutive numbers. Find all 3 numbers. So 51, 53, and 55. What do you do if it's 3 even numbers? The same thing, plus 2, plus 4, right? Okay. 13, we just did one very similar to this on your quiz. What do you have to do with that one? You have to write it both ways, and not just positive and negative, right? It has to be X is greater than 2. Is this less than, or is this and or? This is or, greater, right? This is greater than. So X is greater than 2, or X is what? Less than negative 2. So here's negative 2, here's 2. These are open dots, and they are working away from each other. Okay. 14, X is less than negative 4. Here's a negative 4. X is greater than 2. Here's a 2. Make sure your numbers make sense on the number line. I had a few people put the 2 on the left and the negative 4 on the right, which doesn't make sense. Okay, I want to make sure you put that in the right spot. So these are open dots. Left here, right here. Okay, I want you to try 15 on your own. Solve for R. What do you get?
14, they didn't switch because
They were just given to us like this, right? X is less than negative 4, so you just graph X is less than negative 4. Yeah. There's no absolute value, so you don't rewrite it. What's clicking over there?
Oh, my bad.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, it's just one of those, like, I keep hearing it. keep drinking coffee, guys. It's a bad idea. Do you guys drink coffee? How many of you drink coffee? Oh, not that many. I feel like all high schoolers these days drink coffee. Like, I didn't touch, well, I still don't really touch coffee very often, but yeah. It's just not good, right? It's so bitter. It's like I have to have this much cream for this much coffee. It's not good. You what?
I like black coffee.
So does my husband. My mom, my dad, they all drink it black. I'm like, it's so bitter. I do not. Okay, what'd you get? I didn't solve it yet, so I have no idea if you're right. What did you get? R equals. Come on, someone be bold. Someone want to come work it out for me up here? No, what'd you get? +1. Like that? Anybody else get that? Noah's a pretty good guess for if it's going to be correct or not. Chris got it? Anybody else? Did you get it? Who had their hand? I thought I saw someone. No? Let's check. Let's see how it goes. So if we're solving for R, we're trying to isolate R, right? The first thing I would do here is I would divide by L. Okay, so S over L equals 1 minus R. Then I would take away the 1 from both sides. So right now you have S over L minus 1 equals a negative R. Here's where it gets tricky, right? What do? Divide by -1 or multiply by -1. They're not, neither one of those is wrong. I think it'll make more sense to you if you multiply by a -1 right now. Because if you multiply by -1, here, let's switch this. I need to multiply this whole thing by -1, right? So now this is R. This has to get distributed to both. So you can write it, Noah is correct. You can write it like this. Okay, or you can write it with the negative out in front. That would be the same thing, but it needs to be that because you have to distribute that negative to both things. Don't forget to make it +1, not -1, Johnny.
Do you put the negative like next to the S, or could you put it like next to the line?
Like that, right? You can do either way. You can do it this way
Uh-huh.
or this way. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Out in front like that? Yeah, that's fine. Either way, it's the same thing. They're both correct. Good on that? All right. This one, solve the equation. So I would start here by doing what? Distribute. Yep, I would absolutely distribute here. 3y plus 9 plus 5y equals 8y plus 4. And if I could just encourage you in something, it would be to slow down when you're distributing, because I can't tell you how many times people distribute on this problem and then they get to the next problem, and when they distribute, they don't distribute. They only send it to the first thing. So I know you know, but you need to do it, okay? Make sure it goes to both parts every single time.
Okay.
Yes, do it right. Yes, right? Why can't people figure that out? Just do it right. I know. Okay, so anyway, we have 3y plus 5y is 8y plus 9. And then 8y plus 4 plus 5 is 8y plus 9. Now, technically, you could stop here. What's your answer? All real numbers. But if the 8y freaks you out because you're like, no, I got to solve for y, then take the 8y's away, and you get 9 equals 9. Either way, all real numbers. Okay? How are we doing? Do you need to cross your midline? We have 6 more. You good? Refocus your brain? Shoot a bunny? Can't do it with a pencil in my hand. Okay, here we go. This one, again, combine like terms first. So 5w minus 12w, they're on the same side of the equal sign. Do what it is there. So 5w minus 12w is negative 7w. And then you have 16 minus 15w. Now you have options here. What would you do? I would add the 15. Then you'll get rid of your negative. You don't have to. You could add the 7w. That's fine too. But if you add the 15w, you end up with 8w. And then take the 8 away on both sides. So 8w equals 8. Divide by 8. So w is 1. Questions on that? Okay, tell your neighbor how you would set up 18. What would you do? Tell your neighbor. Okay, now tell me. What'd you tell your neighbor? What'd you do?
2 equations and make it the other one opposite.
Yes, 2 equations. The one is going to look exactly like the one that's there without the bars. The other one has to be the opposite of this. So negative m minus 10, okay? Solve them both. So when we solve this one, I would add 3m, add 3m. So you get 4m. This is gone. Then move your 10 over to the other side. So subtract 10. You get a negative 6. Then divide by 4. So m is what? What is that?
Fraction.
It's a fraction. What's your answer? Negative 3 over 2. Or you could call it, you've got options here. What? Negative 1.5, negative 1.5. Any of those are fine. Okay, the other side, I would add 3m. So I get 2m. And then I would move the 10 to the other side. So 2m equals 14. Divide by 2. So m is 7. Okay, and you can always plug them back in to look for extraneous. In fact, you should, on ones like these, plug them back in to look for extraneous. Where do you plug them in?
The original.
The original. You guys are so good. Okay, so if we plug that back into the original, if my thing will keep up with me, we get 4 minus 3 times a negative 3 halves. Okay, absolute value of that. And then a negative 3 halves plus 10. If you plug that in, anyone got it? 4 minus 3 times a negative 3 halves. So this is 8.5 equals, this is 8.5. So that one checks out. That one's good. If we plug in a 7, it would be the absolute value of 4 minus 3 times 7 equals 7 plus 10. So 17 equals, this is 4 minus 21, which is a negative 17, which is a positive when you take the absolute value. So that one works too. There's no extraneous here. Hooray. So these are your 2 answers. Questions on that? Okay. Solve the inequalities. How many of these do you have to rewrite with 2 inequalities? 2. Why? Because 2 of them have absolute value bars, okay? If there are these bars in the problem, you must write 2. Please don't forget that. That got forgotten a lot on the quiz. You also need to isolate first. So on number 19 here, we're going to add 1. So we get 2 times the absolute value of w plus 3 is less than 2. And then divide by 2. So the absolute value of w plus 3 is less than 1. Now what? Write 2. So w plus 3 is less than 1. And w plus 3 is greater than negative 1. So you get w is less than a negative 2. Ooh, and or. And, less than, right? If it's a less than problem, once you've isolated, that's and. This one's going to be take away 3, so W is greater than -4. So if you want on this one, you could write it -4 is less than W, which is less than -2, but you are welcome to leave it like that as well. Okay? I feel like number 20 is pretty straightforward. You get number 20? What do you got to do? Divide by 6 and divide by 2, right? So if I divide by 6, I get x is less than or equal to a -3. What if I divided by a -6? What if this was a -6? Flip your symbol, okay? Make it greater than or equal to, if that's the case. This one, divide by 2, so x is greater than 9. That's an or, so that's pretty straightforward. 21, what do you got to do first?
Isolate.
Get rid of the 5. So absolute value of 3z minus 2 is greater than 4. And or. Or. I'm not going to even solve this one for you. I'm just going to write it out. 3z minus 2 is greater than 4. 3z minus 2 is less than -4. Solve them both. Okay? And we said this is an or problem. 22. Okay, this is the one that got done wrong a lot on the quiz. What do you do? Add 3 where? Everywhere. Do everything everywhere. So think of it this way, right? Your symbol is kind of a dividing spot. You have 3 sections to this problem. Whatever you do in the middle section, you have to do on the right and you have to do on the left. So I get 8, symbol stays the same. I'm left with 2x in the middle, symbol stays the same, 13. Now what? Divide by 2. Where? Everywhere. Divide by 2, divide by 2. So 4 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 7.5, or you may leave it as 13/2, but that will be your answer. Yeah, Noah. It is 6.5. It's good to have you in my class, Noah. Sorry, 6.5. Mental math with coffee. I'm blaming everything on coffee today, you guys. Don't let me drink coffee anymore. Any questions on that? Yeah, James.
Go to 9.
Yes. Any other ones that people need to see?